let's look at now elders and counseling. And I think this is a subject that we all need to be aware of. Let me start off by giving you the problem, a problem. A Christian comes to one of us in our congregations and our assemblies with eating disorders. Maybe they have been anorexic or bulimic. We just dealt with those two subjects this week in my classes. They have eating disorders, and they go to you as the pastor, note the definite article, the pastor, in this situation. And you find out that they have been going to a secular psychologist, or she's been going to a secular psychologist. And then you turn around to her and say, oh, no, secular psychologist. But then the question is, where's she supposed to go? She's got these eating disorders. So what are you going to do? You don't want to send her to a secular psychologist. And my position would be, we need to send them to you, the elders. The elders, historically, the pastors, elders, bishops, historically have been the ones in the front line who've dealt with issues of the people. And somehow within the last 50 years especially, we've lost track of that. The pastors are so busy taking care of the building and working on the committee meetings and doing this and that and everything else, there's no time for the people. So how do you deal with that? Well, one way, and we'll see this later on as we work through this, is through a plurality of elders. Some of the men need to take care of the eating disorder issue because I don't know how to deal with it, you may say. I don't know how to deal with it. But Susan, married to Bill, they've wrestled through that issue. And I'm going to send you to Bill, and Bill can help you right along with Susie concerning that issue. So let's deal with this matter of counseling and elders. Let's go to Acts chapter 20. I want you to see this from our passage here. I wish we had time to explore the entire text. You may want to do that if you haven't already. But chapter 20 of Acts, Paul is dealing with the elders. You'll see this in verse 17. He's addressing them. You come down to verse 28. Be on guard for yourselves and for all the flock. It's interesting, he's addressing plural elders, and he's dealing with a flock, singular, among which the Holy Spirit has made you episkopos, which is bishops. This is the verb form, noun form. Bishops, and here's the verb form, to shepherd, or a pastor, this is the verb form though, to shepherd the church of God which he purchased with his own blood. So you'll see the three particular names here in verse 28 given to the men who are also called elders in verse 17. But work our way down through the passage. I know that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. And from among your own selves men will arise, speaking perverse things to draw away the disciples after them. Therefore, talking to the elders, be on the alert, remembering that night and day for a period of 3 years, I did not cease to admonish each with tears. Note the counseling methodology of the Apostle Paul. I was there for 3 years admonishing. Word can also be translated counseled. I was there counseling you people with tears. Who's he talking to? He's talking to the elders. He was modeling something for them. And then you'll note the next verse. And now I commend you to God and to the word of his grace, which is able to build you up. And isn't that great? That's what the Bible does. It builds us up. And to give you the inheritance among all those who are sanctified. I love this passage. So Paul gives this instruction to the elders about counseling here in this passage. Other passages you'll get involved with as you study the whole subject of elders. But let's deal with another subject before we break here in a minute or so. And that's the matter of being empathetic. And empathetic means to put myself in someone else's shoes. Now, how in the world do you do that? How do you put yourself in someone else's shoes? And I'm not talking literally here. I only have a size 8.5 And you guys may have size 12s, so that might be a problem. So what do? How in the world am I supposed to be empathetic? If I'm the only man in a congregation, and I have 100 people out in a congregation, how in the world am I supposed to be empathetic with 100 people out there? Now, here's what happens. It seems as though one of two extremes occur. Once again, I've been doing this for 40 years. One extreme is this. Some guys become distant from all of them. I'm not getting close to anybody. Because I can't get close to everybody. So I'm not going to get close to anybody. So that's one extreme. The other extreme is this. I'm going to get close to everybody. And those are the guys who usually last 2 years. The guys who try to get close to everybody in 2 years. It's impossible. You'll burn yourself out. There's no way you can do this with everybody. Now, once again, the established point of the elders. But there's 3 or 4 other guys in your congregation who can deal this. You can't be close to everybody, but you can be close to some. And that's a whole issue that we'll deal with also here. Now, to see how we learn empathy, let's go to 2 Thessalonians, one of my favorite 1 Thessalonians, one of my favorite passages about empathy. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. Listen to these words here. Now watch Paul in because he's becoming very empathetic here with the Thessalonians. Verse number 1. For you yourselves know, brethren, that our coming to you was not in vain. But after we had suffered and been mistreated in Philippi, as you know, we had the boldness in our God to speak to you the gospel of God amid much opposition. I hope you're picking up how to get empathetic here. Verse 3, for our exhortation does not come from error or impurity or by word of deceit, but just as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, so we speak, not as pleasing men, but God who examines our hearts. For we never came with flattering speech, as you know, not with a pretext for greed. God is our witness. Nor do we seek glory from men, either from you or from others, even though the apostles of Christ we might have asserted our authority. But we proved, now note the empathy, we proved to be gentle among you as a nursing mother tenderly cares for her children. Oh, the Greek emphasis here, close to my breast. That's what he felt about the Thessalonians. I want them here. And then he goes on in verse number 8, having so fond an affection for you, we were all pleased to impart to you not only the gospel of God, but also our own lives or our own souls, because you had become very dear to us. Well, this is where we get our word psychology from. We've imparted our emotions to you. And then he moves on. And he talks about, in verse number 10, you are witnesses, and so is God, how devoutly and uprightly and blamelessly we behave toward you believers, just as you know how we were exhorting and encouraging and imploring each one of you as a father would his own children. Now, I want you to get the picture here. Paul is saying, I've treated you like a mother, close, and like a father, imploring. You see? Those two. He's a model for elders, for us here. What we should be doing is holding people close and then imploring. I love his categorization here. He talks about the mother first and then the father. There's an interest in my mind about that. And the interest is you try to implore without this, and people they're not going to respond too well. They're going to probably give you resistance. But if you have this, then they'll probably take the imploring, generally speaking. So, the question now, before we close this section, is this. What was it in this passage that made Paul to be empathetic? And the answer in the context here is trouble. Isn't that interesting? Any volunteers? See, I don't like this passage in one way. I tell the Lord that when I go there, Lord, I don't mind learning to be empathetic, but I don't want to learn empathy by trouble. I want to sit under my tree and read Jonathan Edwards or the Puritans, the other Puritan writers. So I'd be glad with a glass of lemonade. Wouldn't it be great? I don't want to learn the harsh things of life. I don't want God to send them to me. But God says his design for you and for me is learning the hard things of life so that we can be sensitive to other people. Anyone here want to be an elder? Do I want to keep being an elder? You guys in the back or in the front? In the middle? Where are you? You want to be an elder? You want to be a good elder? Yeah, Lord, I want that. Get ready for difficulty, because that's how God is going to make you and me empathetic to other people.